over the years, I have taken credit for married couples who met in one of my classes at the business school, but I have never yet seen a situation where two people who happen to bump into each other in this case, our EMBA program, figured out how to find each other and build the next phase of this iconic franchise. So, as you all know, André is the CEO and president of the Porto Club, and Michele is the head of strategy. They met here. And I will torture them with questions for a little bit, but then hopefully turn it into a conversation with all of you who are good enough to come during the summer. But why don't we just start by having each of you give a little bit of your journey. So, André, why don't you start?
Well, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure to be back in Colombia. Really special emotions of the time of my career when I decided to drop my coaching career to turn into president of a football club. So a lot of emotions mixed to that. I am André Villas-Boas, ex-professional football coach from 31 years old till I was 44. When and went a little bit around the world. So I went from Portugal to England to Russia to China to France. So coach a little bit around the world, different culture, different experiences. But I had a lifetime commitment and some kind of destiny feeling to be president of my hometown club, which is FC Porto. So I decided to run for the election against an outstanding president that was Pinto da Costa, which was the old president of FC Porto, which was there in the presidency for 41 years, and I won the election against him. So yeah, big responsibilities, a lot of responsibilities, in fact. But now we are hoping to take the club forward, not only sportive-wise, but financially, structurally, operationally, and we hope to make the right steps forward to be even more successful in the next coming years.
Great.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. Thank you very much for being here today. My story is a little bit simpler. Actually, I was working at Deloitte when one day Deloitte was part of the executive development program. First of all, I'm Michele Montesi and Chief of Strategy Officer at the club. And before joining the club 1 year ago, more or less, I was working at Monitor Deloitte, that is the strategy practice of Deloitte Consulting. And as part of the executive development program, there was the sponsorship of an executive program, as I was saying, and I was not expecting to be the experience that completely changed my life, but it ended up with that. So I met André. André was in the process of preparing his candidacy. I was working with some of the clubs. I'm Italian. I was working with some of the clubs in Italy, and yeah, we started talking about this project, and I found it particularly interesting. And yeah, it is. I think one common word we have is destiny, and we both believe that.
We just didn't marry yet.
Not yet.
Just
kidding.
We're going to keep tabs. You mentioned an election, which already people in the audience who just are from the US, which is probably only about half of us actually, that'd be like, what? An election? That's how you become the president and CEO of a club? Sunil Gulati, who's here, and I teach a class called Sports Economics and Policy. And probably if there's one thing we want students to get out of that class is an appreciation for how industry structure, both the private and the public rules regime within which different sports teams and leagues operates, has a huge impact on the economic outcomes and possibilities. So the whole concept of an election is going to be new to a lot of people in this audience. So just talk a little bit. And also, you mentioned in passing that previously there was somebody there for over 40 years. So that's a huge deal. So you don't have that either in electoral situations or just regular CEOs. So talk about how that all works.
Yeah. So Porto is actually a members club. You become a member normally when your fathers or your grandfathers turn you a member as you are born normally. The other day we had even a situation where we registered a member before he was even Portuguese citizen. So he became a Porto member. So I was a Porto member since I was born, registered by my grandfather. And we are a members club. So basically we are an association, and the members elect their president now 4 and 4 years. Before was 3 and 3 years. We don't have a limit in mandates. We are for that to happen, we need to go to the General Assembly, which is the members, of course, meeting and change the bylaws and the statutes of the club, which we want to do, to limit the mandates to 3, so a run of 12 years, which follows along the normal practices and standard practices in any good political environment, let's say. So that is the challenge that we have to do. For that to happen, we would have to get this approved in the General Assembly. Changing the statutes and the bylaws of the club is always very, very sensible. But yeah, Porto is a members club. We are 150,000 members. But fans, we would be about 2 million fans around the world. So which is a good number and an important number for a football club. And we are the most successful football club in Portugal in the European landscape, and in the national landscape we compete against our main rival, which is Benfica from Lisbon. So a lot of emotions go, of course, into Portuguese football. Very particular situation in Portugal, because there is 3 big clubs, let's say, that dominate 95% of the demographics of Portugal, which is only a 10 million population country, but that has always generated lots of talent, not only in football players, but also in football coaches, in futsal players, and also agents. Which we have one of a famous agent in Portugal, which rules a little bit all the transfers around, which is called Jorge Mendes.
And so did you actually run against the guy who'd been there for 40 years?
Yeah.
So he didn't gracefully say, it's your time now. It was an actual election. And so was it the kind of election where you have, posters and you have a platform and this is how I'm going to... he was great because it's an iconic club. Obviously, during that 40 years, a lot of extraordinary things happened.
Yeah.
But presumably your story is he did a great job, but his time has come and we need to go forward. So what was your platform?
Yeah. Listen, it was very, very sensible time. And I've seen a few of the Porto shirts around. And it was a very, very sensible time, because in the end, this person transformed the club and transformed Porto as it is right now. So we won 2 Champions League, 2 UEFA Cups, and we won a crazy amount of titles, national titles within, not only in football, but also in multi-sports, basketball, handball, and roller hockey, which we have a part of our, we are an eclectic club. But I thought that it was time for us to revamp the club. The club was going in ruin financially, and I'll come back to that story a little bit after. So I felt it was time to modernize the club, to take it forward in another level. to continue our expansion, international expansion, and to continue to win titles, of course, to make the team competitive. Porto has not won the national title for the last 3 years, so we are still picking up on that, picking up the pieces, trying to build a stronger team into the next season. We finally, right now, have the financial conditions to invest in the market because we were able to resolve most of the financial situations of the club, and a few of the operations we did actually save the club to continue to be a members club, or else we would eventually have to be sold into an investment fund or a private fund.
Got it. So the person who you beat is obviously an iconic figure in the country and in connection with the club, but you yourself were already an iconic figure because of your track record as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
That said, there's not a lot of track record of coaches becoming CEOs, at least not pretty ones, in terms of having stunning outcomes. I don't know if that was used against you during the campaign, but as a practical matter for yourself, as you think about being it's a very different job, and you think about the things that you're trying to achieve for the club, talk a little about how you're preparing to move from being a coach to being a CEO.
Well, I think it's all about managing people, motivating people, of course. I know the conundrums of leadership expand in different areas, and I try to apply my way of leading with people to motivate them into doing their job correctly. Of course, you have to choose the right people. Most of them are in this room today with me. All of them excel in their works. I was very lucky to find them, put them in the right places, and they are able to do the right job for the football club. So we have Zé Pedro as a CFO, João in operations, Francisco deals with all the Porto fan base around the world, and the homes of FC Porto, so little establishments that we put not only in the country but in the worldwide as well. And Michele is with me on the strategy, and Barbara is my right-hand girl, always by my side to make sure all our leading process happens around the organization. I have no experience as CEO. Of course, I led football players, which are, of course, a different breed in themselves. Very hard to handle with all their problematics, but I think that gives you the experience, to motivate people, touch people emotionally, and convince them of a way forward, of a vision, and a way to go. So I had a way to go for Porto. Porto is, of course, you have to win titles. That's the main way to go. So you always have your short-term objective that you have to attain every single season, which is to be champion, and then you set out your medium and long-term objectives. But that doesn't make me an experienced CEO. I just try to get as much information as I can, and that's why I joined the Columbia University Executive Management Program and met really interesting people around.
We look forward to taking credit if it goes well, and if it doesn't, we'll pretend we don't know yet. But actually, you do have a track record of doing unexpected things and succeeding, namely being a coach. Most coaches actually knew a little something about how to play football, right? And you played in the front yard, and but you weren't a big successful football player.
No.
And
Not at all.
And that's quite unusual. So talk a little, because when I'm not doing this job, I was an investment banker. And in investment banking, it is very hard to be a leader of an investment banking institution if you and manage different kind of egomaniac people. But you got to say, well, I know how to do deals. I'm the real deal. Because if not, they look at you like you're overhead. They're like, why are you talking to me? What kind of credibility do you have? So talk about the challenge of being a successful coach where you didn't have that kind of credibility.
Well, it's becoming more and more common around the world. It's not uncommon to find the situations like this. Most of, or a few of the greatest coaches in the world have not played the game. So people like Arrigo Sacchi, Rafael Benitez, José Mourinho never played the game at the highest level and became successful coaches. So my route was that route, which was at 18, instead of going into sports journalism, which was more or less what I wanted to do. I decided to take on coaching courses and to learn about coaching methods, motivating people, drill preparation, exercises, etc. And you actually then have to apply it. You have to apply your leadership. You have to apply and teach people to do, what their talent gives them the ability to do them, and you just have to show them the way and put those things into practice. So I was able, since I was 18, to coach all of FC Porto's youth levels till the under 18s, and then I had a spell of assistant coach with José Mourinho around the world as well. And then I started my own career as a football coach. So it's becoming more and more common. In fact, the current FC Porto coach has not played the game as well. So he's one of those persons that has followed that route as well with coaching courses and then putting ideas into practices.
Maybe we shift a little to the issue of industry structure. Maybe turn a little to Michele. So, the leading game in the U.S. is a different kind of football, and the structures within which it operates requires you to work extremely hard to lose money. I believe maybe only Paul Allen, who is a brilliant programmer, but you wouldn't put him in charge of a P&L. Beyond that, we have salary caps. It's set up that if you own a football team in the U.S., and you lose money, that takes some work. That is not the case in football in Europe. And in fact, the number of teams that have negative gross margin, that is just the cost of the players, exceeds the revenues. And as we say in investment banking, when you have negative gross margin, you can't make it up on volume. It's not a pretty picture. You all have an interesting history, quite creative history, in terms of how, with a market that is not one of the top 5, just in terms of its size in Europe, some years you made money, some years you lose money, but you have a big debt burden. You've approached it in a creative way over the years. Talk a little about how you do strategy in that kind of environment.
So first of all, the financial stability and sustainability is a worldwide problem in sports, especially because as you were mentioning, the salary, especially of the players, but also of the staff, has been growing a lot in the last few years. The salary cap actually is something that American sports are already implementing, and it's a common discussion in Europe. To have this kind of regulation also to maintain this stability. Actually, UEFA, that is the governing body in Europe, is already trying to stabilize the level of salary compared to the operating revenues or revenues in general. But yeah, especially for a club like Porto. So this is a common issue. This is a common challenge, and actually the clubs in Europe are differentiating their operating revenues, focusing more on the especially on the commercial side and match day revenues, because it's where you can create value. Because broadcasting is worldwide declining. The other source of revenue is the competitions. But you are dependent on the sporting results. So basically, overall, the clubs are focusing on the commercial and match day. As André was mentioning, for the Portuguese clubs, this challenge is even bigger because we live and we run a club in a 10 million people country, where you have few space for differentiating the commercial and the operating revenues and expanding the commercials. So basically, we have another lever to maintain this stability, that is the player trading. The three Porto and the three big Portuguese clubs have an incredible talent and I would say also a bit of luck in the sense of the conditions around which this is possible. But they have a great talent in the development of the talents and the valorization of these players in the context of the European football. And this is basically the most important lever to maintain this financial stability. Just to give you a number, in the last 10 years, FC Porto has generated more than 800 million revenues with player sales.
So just to pause here, because this is not something you see in the US. So literally, the way they deal with the fact that they've been running basically a break-even business with $500 million of debt is that they find promising players, they give them long-term contracts, they develop them, and the good news is then that you can effectively sell them and use that money to make up the difference. That's the good news. The bad news is they were good players and they were important to your team, and then you got to start from ground zero again. So you're on kind of a constant gerbil wheel of creating this value and then having to get rid of it. Is there a way? Is that your lot in life forever going forward, or is there a way off the gerbil wheel?
I mean, this is a great challenge for two reasons. The first one, and this is the one you mentioned, is the fact that from a sporting perspective, you're losing the best players of the squad, and you need to replace these players, generally with I would say more economic players in an elegant way, but also linked to what I was explaining, the relevance of the commercial revenues and the commercial activities around the club in nowadays football. I think it's even more complex from a marketing perspective, from a commercial perspective. Every year losing the players that are more famous, more relevant from a commercial perspective, and create a new asset, if we want to call that way. So I think that is the big challenge when you have to replace the top players of the squad every year, or at maximum every couple of years when you're lucky and you can keep the talent for an additional season. And I think this is the challenge. I don't know, André, if you...
Yeah, this is it. Basically, it's trying to create conditions to continuously generate talent. And this goes back to what we were speaking about regarding football coaches. The quality of football coaching in Portugal is very high. That is why we have Portuguese football coaches spread out all over the world. We actually had our breakthrough moment since Jose Mourinho arrived in the scene, which led to young people at 18-year-olds wanting to become football coaches and not continuing there or pursuing their other careers. So the high level of coaching allows us, in a 10 million country population, allows us to continuously develop talent and good talent.
And thinking about how to make the pie bigger than it would obviously be able to be grown, given just the constraint of the number of human beings and the size of the GDP, obviously needs to involve thinking about how the brand, and you mentioned you've got 2 million people around the world, right, gets resonance beyond those borders.
Yeah.
And other categories of ways to both build that brand and then monetize that brand in a broader way. Are there some things you're thinking about that you're comfortable talking about?
Yeah, I mean, Michele, which is in this part of strategy and internationalization of the brand, can explain us a little bit better on that side. The problem for us mainly is that because we are a members club, we end up always going to people's pocket and because in fact we are a political club, people actually offer resistance when you increase, for example, the quota they have to pay monthly, to continue to be a member. So this is a commercial challenge where we always have to run, the political impact of that type of decision making, increasing, for example, the value of the season tickets, for example. It's another challenge that people normally offer resistance and they don't like. And in the end, they are your clients and you need to also raise your revenues, but they offer resistance to that. The other part is related to Michele and Francisco here, which is brand internationalization and touching the Portuguese immigrants, for example, that are here in New York, make sure that we touch base with them, that we shorten the distance, that we make sure that they continue to be Porto fans. Most of our fan base, 75% of our fan base is in Porto, of our members' fan base, not the overall fans, is in Porto, and we need to really, start getting more members across the world. So this is the strategy that we want to implement, and Michele has designed a 5-year strategic plan for us to continue to grow on a worldwide scale.
Yeah, I think there is an aspect that is interesting. Basically, in nowadays football, and I think you guys, I don't know where you are in the different programs that you are studying here at Columbia, but maybe this is something that you have experienced. It's every day more relevant the investment of, especially of foreign structures, investors in European football. Especially a very common concept developing at the moment is what is called MCO. That is the acronym for multi-club ownership. And basically these investors are creating this group of clubs to maximize the sporting and the sporting aspects, but also to minimize the operational cost, also related to the movement of the players. So they can manage a bigger portfolio of clubs and have a deeper base for the Italian development. This is an additional challenge for us, because when it comes to a membership club, generally, as Andrea was explaining, is very complex, especially from a political perspective, to accept new investments in equity in the club. And actually, this is something that we experience every day with investors willing to enter in our company structure, and the position to generally answer, no, this is not a possibility for us. And those investments are going on other clubs. Thanks God, out of the 3 big clubs in Portugal, because we still have the same structure, but this is a castle that can be, destroyed by the common European football landscape. So this is, I would say, an additional challenge. And but at the same time, and I have been experiencing this personally, more like as I was saying, I'm not Portuguese. It's incredible to see the link of the Portuguese fan with a club. Even if this is a challenge, because sometimes they feel that they own the club because they have this right of vote, of voting, of electing the new president. It's very incredible to see the willingness of these people in helping the club for free. This is incredible. And this is, I would say, a capital that we have. We have a capital there, literally.
So in your opening comment about sort of what drew you to come in and say it's time for a change here, you did make reference to the financial challenges of the club. So if you look, just I guess the financials are public. I mean, it basically looks like more or less on average a break-even operation.
Yeah.
Some years you make a little, some years you lose a little.
Yeah.
Which, is okay, except for the fact that you've got like 500, how much of debt?
500 million, yeah.
500 million euros of debt. So break even does not service 500 million euros of debt. So it's good that you've got a constituency that is not completely economically driven. That said, as you referenced, asking them to go into their pocket is not a good long-term plan, because you can only do it so often and keep your job at the next election.
Yeah.
So just talk a little about what the and I bet there are regulatory bodies and others who are breathing down your neck, and there are a bunch of metrics, and there may be some people in this
One is present in the room.
related to that body. So talk a little about how you're keeping him happy.
Yeah. So I mean, it was actually a very, very difficult time. So when we took over, we had 8,000 euros in all of Porto's accounts. We had 2 weeks to pay 15 million euros or 12 million euros. We managed to raise 15 million precisely through fans. So people lent money on a 6-month commercial paper till the end of the year at 5%. So they actually saved our operations at that time and allowed us to invest a little bit in the team. Then we concluded via JP Morgan an operation that we call Dragon Notes. So we raised 115 million based on the revenues of the stadium. So we created Porto Statco, and Porto Statco basically holds all the commercial value of the club and the stadium assets. And we raised 115 million there for the next 25 years at 5%. And then we sold 30% of that company for 60 million as well. Further to that, we had in 12 months, we raised 200 million in player trading. So actually we disinvested on the team. So that's why we finished third this season. But actually saved the club of total breakdown and bankruptcy. So we were able to satisfy our gentleman over here, give us continuity and believing in the credibility of this team. UEFA is a governing body that controls football clubs and football clubs' operation financially. Porto were actually under the threat of suspension from UEFA competitions because they not only couldn't break even, but they had continuous negative results throughout the years. And we were able, we are 1 year away from finalizing that suspension, that threat of suspension, and we have stabilized all of our operations. In the meantime, what do we have to do? We have invested in new infrastructure to continue to develop young players, and that infrastructure is going to generate talent, which in the end is going to always be our main market and activation. So basically, right now we have 150 million from Dragon Notes over 25 years. We have about 110 million on short-term bonds at 6% that we run every 3 years and we renew. And then all of the other debt, there is 90 million to football agents via commissions of precisely player trading, which we have to pay back. And the other debt is when you buy football players to your club and then over time you give that money back. So normally we have found stability. And we will continue to service this debt around time, hopefully to bring it back to 250 million, which I think is a good number, and operationally will give us total sustainability into the future, bearing in mind that normally we generate 160 million in revenues every year.
Great. Well, I'm going to turn it over to the audience, but before I do, why don't you just talk a little bit about what you're doing here and about the tournament here.
Yeah, so basically we are here for the FIFA Club World Cup. This is somehow linked to what we were talking about, because the challenging of generating and finding this financial sustainability for the clubs, especially the European clubs, but worldwide, is pushing FIFA and UEFA to rethinking the competitive formats. And as part of this activity, FIFA created this new competition. There is a kind of, basically it's like a World Cup, but instead of being played by the national teams, will be played by 32 clubs. So it's a very fascinating event, especially because it will be running in like 20, 25 cities around the States, around the United States. It will be a 1-month competition, so it will be starting on Saturday with the opening match, and yeah. So basically, we are here for the competition, and yeah, it was the chance of telling you our story.
Awesome. Great. So, please.
My name's Arnava.
Wait for the
mic.
The mic
Yeah.
in general.
Hey, my name's Arnava. I'm a huge fan of football, and I started becoming a fan actually with Jose's win in 2004 with Porto. So I wanted to ask a little bit question about pragmatism versus ambition, because I think now we're entering a phase in football where you have these giant clubs spending billions on transfer windows, and they're the ones who are competing at the top. And then clubs like, say, a Brighton model where they're focusing more on pragmatism and making that money and staying competitive. But Porto isn't actually a club that's been that like a Brighton. They've had so much history with the Champions League in 2004, your Europa win in 2010-11. So how, as you enter this era, do you balance that, making sure you break even, making sure you make money, making sure you don't go bankrupt, with that history where the fans are used to that level of success where you're European champions?
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Well, tolerance is zero, to be fair. So we are under lots of pressure, also because of our past. So in reality, Porto, historical European club that has won so many European competitions with the old president, and all of that weight and all of the ghost is always around the corners of the stadium, and people put you under pressure regarding the delivery of results. I mean, we this year we used to save the club basically. So we are now in a position of investment finally in the club, not only in infrastructures but on the team, and that's what we are doing, bearing in mind that we need to deliver results and we need to deliver the title to the fans. So this is the difficult thing, which is not comparable to clubs in the mid-table of the Premier League that are used as a financial vehicle, basically, where people can make lots of money, bring them the financial sustainability, and make them great multi-brands, not only multi-club ownerships, but also on the business side of it, and improve the business side of it. For us is actually the opposite. For us, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Benfica, Sporting, we are under the tremendous pressure to deliver. So we need actually to continue to invest on the team to deliver the results. So yeah, when you don't deliver, I think you will have a short-term mandate of 4 years or a 1-year mandate of 4 years. If you deliver, people actually see the progress, and you are able to sustain your leadership throughout time. So that is a difficult conundrum of leading an association, a members club.
All the way in the way back.
Off we go. Thank you so much. My name is Madiar. I'm very interested in the sports management, in particular in decision-making around the coaches and around the sports stuff. Because as we know, the revenue is highly dependent on the results on the field, and the results on the field in their turn are very dependent on the coaches. And what's your framework for making the decisions? Do you use expected points? Do you use advanced analytics? Or do you use your sense of how the team does play, or the attractiveness of their play? So what's the framework of making decisions there? Thank you.
Well, it's a tough question, very interesting, very difficult to answer to your question. I mean, the experience that you gain through time in the sportive world allows you, to understand, or normally to to believe in the decisions that you take. I was always very emotional, intuitive person. I try to balance it with my rational side. People believe a lot in my emotion and intuition. But we are trying via the strategic plan to make better decisions every time, particularly at operational level. Those are a little bit more easy. Whatever is sportive is very, very difficult, and it's normally split-second decisions. Not the one that you mentioned, which is the choice of a coach. The choice of a coach for us needs to obey particularly to talent development, so people that are able to continuously develop talent and at the same time work with a low resource, but still achieve titles and achieve ambition. Porto does bet a lot on young coaches. That was what happened to me at that time. And is what happened now in the coach that we chose, an Argentinian coach. So we do bet a lot on these people, highly motivated individuals, but with ability to develop talent, which is what we want. So right now we have in our squad, if you are able to see the game, an 18-year-old called Rodrigo Mora. He's just a 165 genius player. And you will see the talent and ability that he has, and you will see that he actually exploded with Anselmi leading the team. So yeah, a difficult one. I do love Ray Dalio's method and principles, his book, but I have not been able to register all my decision making through time like he does. And that's why most of the decisions that I take are based on rationality, intuition, emotion, and of course experience through time. I would like to register them, but I can't find a way.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is André. I'm from Paris, recently Champions League champion, yay. I run a Africa-focused sports business platform, and I'm curious to know how is FC Porto looking at Africa from a pool of talent perspective, as well as from an audience perspective and developing more fans on the African continent. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've recently been in Angola. So this was in October, to strike back a partnership and a protocol that we lost a few years back, particularly with a few of the best academies there regarding football players. We're still short for what we want to achieve in Africa because of the talent that you have. So we struck this protocol back in Angola. We struck one in Brazil, another one in Colombia. We're just about to strike a new one in America, actually. So those protocols are in fact protocols of development of talent. So when talent is identified, is pushed through back into Porto's academy, and from there we develop that talent. So this is the model that we want to work with. And we do 50-50 ownership of economic rights of football players that are found in these different countries. In Angola is the one that we have right now. We do have other Dragon Forces academies spread out around the African country, namely Mozambique. But they are actually pools of development of young players, not to nurture our actual professional academy. So we are still looking into that to see where do we set out. Morocco will probably be our next step, bearing in mind the amount of talent that they are breeding through, although we would face a lot of competition.
Right, why don't we go across the way?
Yes, and so building on that question, you've talked about the development of talent. So I'm curious in terms of the development of the audience base. So could you speak a little bit about your international strategy? You have 10 million people in Portugal. Obviously, America has, 370 million or so. So just a little bit about your international strategy.
Do you want to take this?
Yeah, I'll let Michele take this one. I'll just make an introduction. I mean, this is very difficult for us. So basically for FC Porto to establish itself, let's say the American country, we would need the emotional attachment that people don't have for our club and for our city. So the only thing that we can do normally, and what we are trying to do right now, is on the amount of tourists coming into Porto and our stadium, is actually trying to suck all their data back and make sure that they commit through time to FC Porto and become fans of FC Porto. So this is something that we want to do in the bylaws of the club and the statutes of the club. So we want to create new models of membership where you don't actually have a voting right, but you become a fan, like a gold, silver, platinum type of level fan of Porto, and then maybe we can, create emotional attachments throughout the world.
Yeah, and this is a key aspect. And in this internationalization process of the brand, we have a global trend that is helping us and can help us, in link to what André was explaining, the fact that new generations, compared to the previous generations, are multi-club fans. So basically, it's quite interesting that one day we were working at the club and André's son entered the stadium with a Real Madrid shirt. And he's the son of the FC Porto president. But this is very normal. This is a new global trend. The new generations love to be fan of more than one club. And this is a huge opportunity for a club like us, that we have a local market that is quite limited, and but a global brand, a brand that is very able to create that passion, that link with the local audiences. So from that perspective, our objective, our strategy is to try to leverage this global trend, and of course, trying to bring the club in the top markets we have identified as a priority during the breaks, especially the summer break, because the experience is what creates the emotional link and the long-term link with the fan.
So basically, we expect everybody here to become a Porto member.
Exactly. Okay.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Philip. I'm a turnaround manager, and I'm thinking about failure. So if I fail, nobody cares. I have to look for a new job. But if you fail, you have to move to a new country. You have to take your kids out of school. Everybody in Porto knows you. Everybody knows what you're doing. Everybody has an opinion. So I wonder how you're dealing with that. Like before your job, your decision-making, your risk-taking processes, how does it affect you to deal with that kind of pressure every day?
Well, so I do punish myself a lot for failure. It's actually what has pushed me always to reinvent myself and to adapt to different cultures. Most of or a few of the people here that know my story, I was a very highly successful coach in FC Porto, and moved to Chelsea and failed at Chelsea. All right, and I failed at Chelsea for different reasons. The way that I tried to apply my leadership, mostly because of results, but mainly those results fell by the way that I was trying to apply my leadership and the way that I was trying to apply my methods. So from that experience onwards and the negative impact of that experience, I readapted a few things in my methodology to try to better my results on the long term. It does have a striking impact on family and on personal affairs. You do try to. You do try to inflict yourself with less pain. There are people that lead with failure different ways than I lead. I do suffer a lot from it. But I always use it as a momentum to improve things and do things a bit better. So they serve me as an experience. There was I think it was Ante Kopo that the other day spoke about failure in the NBA. So, for example, in Portugal, everything that falls out of the not being first, you are a failure. So Benfica failed and FC Porto failed this season, all right? And the other day, I think wasn't a couple that was speaking about failure, and for him was not failure because he knows that in all of this process he gave 100%. And for the chaotic nature of the game and the circumstances of the game, he wasn't able to win, or his team wasn't able to win, and he doesn't consider that failure. I do consider it. I use it as leverage to improve myself and to take better decisions. Although not a lot of people work around this model, but that's the model I work with.
Hi, my name is Felipe. I'm from Portugal, and I'm doing my MBA here at CBS. So thank you so much for coming. We have been talking a lot about like the talent on the pitch, the coaches, but I would also be very curious how Porto is thinking about attracting, developing, and retaining also talent off the pitch, and what areas do you see as most critical for Porto?
Talent off the pitch?
Yes, for example, staff. Finance, tech.
Well, really interesting question, because most of our staff in the organization, so Porto has more or less 800 employees. Most of them, if not, I would risk 90% of them are also Porto members, FC Porto members. That means that the emotional pain from winning and losing affects immediately the organization on the short term, because we are dependent on the Sunday result in that organization. We are trying to put that aside, okay? So let's imagine, first of all, that we would go to market to look for different people with different creativity. We would lose the emotional attachment. The emotional attachment for us with our staff means that they can work the extra hours. They give 100% in, but they suffer as well as us on the emotional side of the results. New staff, newly created people, more expensive and probably more willing to continue their careers elsewhere. So more short-termist, let's say. So we are actually thinking of doing or steadily we are doing a revamp in our organization regarding a few persons, mainly on the top positions. So at least they transmit the vision into people that have been there for 30, 40 years. But actually, it is a problem in the organization that we face a lot, because if we want to change somebody in the organization, we have people that have been there for 40 years. And in those 40 years, they have been, in reality, extremely successful, like the organization. But they are not able to follow the modern patterns that you expect into the future and to impact the organization creatively, looking into the future and where you see it going on the long term. So it is very sensible and difficult to lead, particularly also because you are there maybe short term, because you are on this 1 year, 4-year mandate that you are elected to. So yeah, we are overseeing it. We have done some changes at the top, mainly because I won the election and I've changed the teams around. And now in specific posts in the organization where we see that we can profit from different leaders.
Thank you so much for being here and bringing European football to New York City. I'm from Germany, and my question is a bit related to the previous one. What we realized in Germany, especially in the German football clubs on the local level, that young people are not going, not playing. It's like lesser. They're not playing at the pitch, but also outside the pitch, like in management and volunteering. You spoke about it briefly, that you have a lot of volunteers. So the German Federal Association set a task force, and they thought about marketing it more through social media channels in order to catch like young people. Do you think that's a good strategy, or do you think the emotional attachment is not there? You need to bring the people, but also my question at first, is it marketing, or are there any other channels, so the partnerships that we can bring the young people back to the pitch, watching but also playing? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Actually, it's quite interesting because it's, at the end of the day, it's a combination. So the experience, especially the live experience, is something that is unique and is able to create a long-term link with the fans and with the people. But at the same time, I think nowadays people are boomed with the content. So, and this is something that actually is not only related with football, is generally related with a lot of sectors. So the content nowadays is not anymore sufficient to reach to a person. So it's something that you need to work to create a unique combination of experience, of engagement, of creating something unique to tell to that specific audience. And I think that is what we are trying to do at the club. Also, as André was mentioning about this young player, even if he's very young, he's able to naturally create a link also with the older generations. And this is something that we are trying to leverage and to exploit. But yeah, basically it's a combination experience, I would say, and the rest, marketing, digital marketing, data, also the ability to understand what the people like. Yeah, it's especially because nowadays the digital audience is very young, but at the same time, if we analyze our fan base, we discover that is more concentrated on the older generations. So we need to balance a little bit this for who we are communicating, for who we are creating that link.
Do one last question, and then we'll be around for a few minutes after.
Thank you. Amazing day for Columbia Business School to have such a historic club here. This summer is a very interesting time for football. A lot of people are really excited about the Club World Cup. It represents an amazing financial opportunity for so many clubs that are not the Champions League clubs necessarily, but someone who's worked with players, you know the intensity of their year-long schedules. We have the World Cup next summer. We've had the Euros. We've had a grueling season. Champions League has been expanded even more. Is it too much football?
Well, it's probably the most sensible question right now. Probably, yeah. It's just too much. I mean, if we compare it to American sports, probably isn't. If we compare it to Brazilian clubs, the same, because Brazilian clubs, they have, they play 80 games per season, plus the international calendar. So what is happening is that clubs right now have to increase the amount of players in their squads, and they increase also the amount of staff for injury prevention, rehabilitation. Processes have all been changed. Infrastructures, medical, logistics, everything has changed to make sure that players are able to sustain. It's going to be actually very interesting to see between the amount of injuries from the World Cup in Qatar going all the way to international calendar to the World Cup in America 2026, because I think the trend will be very high on the amount of injuries. And that will finally give us a global scale that we can't pursue this anymore, particularly because the Club World Cup in America is going to be played with more teams even in the group phase. So about 1,200 professionals are going into the World Cup. So yeah, probably it's too much. Players are already showing signs of discontent. And if you add up another phenomenon that is happening right now is that you see more and more people coming into the game that have the talent to play it, but they don't actually love it. So they live off what the game offers to them, mostly financial and recognition-wise, but they actually have no love for the game. So you have more and more athletes going into depression situations, not being able to deliver, and then more and more injuries through time. So I think that calendar from World Cup to World Cup with the increase in competitions, plus the increase in teams, plus the new formats of the European landscape of competitions, Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, will actually show us that the amount of injuries have increased, and probably FIFA and UEFA will take a back step regarding the amount of the international calendar. Probably, but I'm not sure. That is a question that we have to take to the big boss of FIFA, which normally right now is pushing for more and more games.
All right. Well, look, we cannot thank you enough for sharing your candid perspectives about your ambitions for what you're trying to do with the club. And in return, we will try using the global Columbia Business School network to reinforce the strategy that you're trying to implement, which is to create a resilient global brand beyond just the 10 million. And we will be watching the games in the coming weeks and rooting you on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.